There have been a couple of fads that I've been a part of that I also wanted to talk about, which is how I've started to recognize this. When I was growing up as a kid, my brother and I would sell Pogs. We'd play with Pogs, but then we'd also sell Pogs to people. Do you know what a Pog is? You might be too young for it.
No, I'm thinking of a
you should look it up
Pog.
online. It's POG. Okay. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's basically like a piece of cardboard that's a circle, and you play by risking them together and using a slammer to flip them. And, there were collectible Pokemon cards, except far less exciting and probably far less valuable back in the late 90s and probably late 90s, actually. And so, we would go to the flea market and buy a bunch of Pogs because someone was selling the Pogs and slammers there. And then we'd go to school and sell Pogs and slammers. And,
nice.
That was
what was your
fad.
margin?
I have no idea. I really don't remember. But there were good Pogs that were poisons. If they had a skull and crossbones, it was a poison, and some would have an 8-ball. Those were called 8-balls, and then some would have a poison 8-balls, and those were the best Pogs. But that was a fad, and I started realizing that. Then my parents owned gas stations, and I was like, okay, gas station is a very sustainable business, right? Everyone needs gas all the time, and people buy cigarettes all the time, and so okay, great. You should have a really sustainable business. Cigarettes are fucking addicting. You should have a very sustainable business. And I realized
sustainable built in.
Yeah, the reality is that there were so many different fads at the time when we were running our gas station. It was stunning. There was a period of time where cigarettes were meant to be exported to Europe. And so what they would do, and they would have, they would cost less because, Philip Morris would sell them cheaper to somebody who was exporting them than a retailer in the United States. So what some smart people decided to do is they would say, okay, this is a container ship of Marlboro cigarettes meant for England. It's going to go out into international waters and then turn right back and come back into the United States. And we are going to have cheaper cigarettes than you would ordinarily buy at Kroger or Publix or CVS or Walgreens. And so, we started selling those cheaper cigarettes at our gas station because they were and we were selling them like there was no tomorrow. We'd sell $2,000 or $3,000 of Marlboro cigarettes every day as a result of being cheaper than everybody else because we had these gray market cigarettes. And then the law changed and you couldn't have gray market cigarettes anymore. And, that fad was over. And then you had to go find another fad. And that next fad would have been there was synthetic marijuana. So we'd sell synthetic marijuana that was called K2. And then the police would say, that's now illegal. So that fad was over. So you had to go find another fad. I realized that there's a lot of businesses that are built on fads. A lot of businesses are fads. I think Prime might be an example. I think Last Crumb might be an example. I think there's a lot of businesses that are sustainable but have fads built into them. But that they're at least sustainable long term. And then the holy grail is Tide laundry detergent. Nothing fad, just huge business, huge TAM, lasts forever. You need very little product innovation to be incredible. And so I think the bottom of the list is businesses that are fads, and that's Last Crumb. I think that might be Prime. I think there's plenty of other examples we could probably think of there. I think the next business is you've had fads built into them, like my parents' gas stations. That hierarchy of businesses is the Tide laundry detergent.
So the highest one, you're basically in your head, you're thinking not only was it a great business from a margin and a cost standpoint, but also from a the fastest time to market adoption, really, right? People just immediately jumped on it and then they stayed.
That's right. The stayed is the key part, because I think Prime can say everybody jumped on this and faster than anyone would have imagined. The problem is no one's stayed. And I think Prime could have gotten people to stay for another year with more interesting product drops, with more interesting collaborations. I think they could have built, they could have had several more years of trying to squeeze whatever juice was left in the Prime business, or trying to make it a real legitimate long-term sustainable business. I still think they probably have a little bit of time to do it, but I think that the longer they wait, the more we all realize this was a hype and it'll be gone. We'll be buying Primes at TJ Maxx pretty soon.
Yeah. So I wonder, if I feel I wonder what their new baseline is going to be. If they did 250 and then 1.2, is their new baseline 200 million? Is it 300 million? I wonder what that's going to be.
Is it 600? Yeah.
Yeah. It might be something still ridiculous.
Yeah.
The other thought is like, what typically happens in beverage is, online, it's like you have unlimited shelf space. In retail stores, there's limited shelf space, and you have these huge players that box people out. And this even happens, if you ever see a college that's got Aquafina in their school cafeteria, you can bet Pepsi has zero chance of being at the arena or at their basketball games. And these guys box people out. And
Yeah.
when LaCroix got really big a few, like seven-ish years ago, Bubbly came out from Pepsi, and the whole goal of Bubbly, from my point of view, was basically like, let's flood our retail channels with the same product that's way cheaper